The chamber went silent as Jonah Kell's fingers curled around Emperor Theron's ankle and pulled. The Emperor, the most powerful human in 5 centuries of interstellar civilization, tumbled from his levitation throne with an undignified yelp. His ceremonial robes tangled around his legs as Jonah dragged him across the polished quantum crystal floor, leaving a trail of scattered holographic insignia in their wake. Not a single star dared speak. The 12 star representatives, shimmering humanoid projections of sentient stellar bodies, simply watched, their plasma-bright eyes tracking the unprecedented act of rebellion. Each star burned with a different colored light: crimson Antares, sapphire Rigel, golden Canopus, and 9 others representing the Heliox Federation's Council of 13. Only Emperor Theron had the authority to speak for humanity, the 13th member. Until now, apparently. "You've lied to everyone for long enough," Jonah said, his voice echoing through the vast chamber as he continued pulling the struggling Emperor. "They deserve to know what's really happening. What you've done." Security drones hovered uncertainly at the chamber's edges. The Emperor's guards stood frozen, their neural implants likely short-circuited by conflicting protocols: protect the Emperor versus never interrupt a council meeting. No human had ever disrupted the sacred proceedings in the 300 years since stars had revealed their sentience and formed the alliance that saved humanity from extinction. Yet here was Jonah Kell, chief dimensional physicist and, until approximately 40 seconds ago, a respected member of the Imperial Science Division, committing what amounted to cosmic treason. The Emperor finally kicked free. "Release me at once," he sputtered, scrambling to his feet. His face flushed purple beneath his translucent vitality mask. "The penalty for touching the Imperial person is atomization." "Atomization?" Jonah laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "That's your threat? When entire systems are being atomized as we speak? When Proxima Centauri's colonies just vanished with 18 million people?" He turned to the watching stars. "Do you even know about that? Or has our dear Emperor been filtering your feeds too?" Rigel's blue projection flickered. Clarification requested. Proxima Centauri's status was reported as stable at the last convergence. "Of course it was," Jonah said. He pulled a small projector from his pocket and tossed it onto the floor. A holographic display erupted, swirling graphs, cascading numbers, and at the center, footage of a star system seemingly folding in on itself, space-time crumpling like paper in an invisible hand. "The collapse isn't natural, and it's accelerating," Jonah continued. 3 systems in the past month. Not failing, disappearing. And our Emperor knows why. 3 weeks earlier, Jonah had been working late in the dimensional lab when his clearance unexpectedly granted him access to the Emperor's private research network. A glitch in the security system, or perhaps deliberate sabotage by someone else who suspected the truth. Either way, what he found shattered his world. Project Tethering. Classified beyond any security level he'd known existed. The Emperor's personal obsession for decades. The files revealed a terrible truth: the stars weren't just sentient beings who had reached out to help humanity. They were dimensional anchors, entities existing simultaneously in our universe and several others, somehow stabilizing the boundaries between realities. And Emperor Theron had been secretly experimenting with those boundaries, attempting to harness their energy to extend his life indefinitely. Each experiment weakened the tethers. Each attempt at immortality frayed the cosmic fabric a little more. The collapse events were accelerating rifts in spacetime, and the Emperor knew. Jonah had spent the next weeks gathering evidence, verifying his findings, and infiltrating the council chamber by temporarily overriding the identity protocols with a code fragment he'd found in the Emperor's own files. He had exactly one chance to expose the truth before the system detected the intrusion. "You've been experimenting with dimensional tethering," Jonah said, his voice dropping to a dangerous quiet. "You've been trying to tap into the star's multidimensional nature to extend your own lifespan. Each attempt weakens the cosmic fabric." The Emperor's expression shifted from outrage to something far more dangerous: calculation. "Interesting theory, Dr. Kell. Perhaps your recent work stress has affected your judgment. Guards, please escort. Your Luminance, Jonah addressed Canopus, cutting off the Emperor, request access to my vital signs and neural patterns. You'll confirm I'm telling the truth. The golden star's projection brightened. Stars could read human physiological responses with perfect accuracy. It was why diplomatic deception was impossible in the Council. It was also why the Emperor always spoke through prepared statements and neural interfaces that buffered his actual thoughts. Connection accepted, Canopus said, the star's harmonious voice reverberating through the chamber. Truth patterns detected. The Emperor's mask couldn't hide his panic now. This is unnecessary. The Council was already scheduled to discuss the spatial anomalies at the next. There won't be a next meeting if this continues, Jonah interrupted. Proxima was just the beginning. The models show the collapse spreading. The boundaries between dimensions are failing because of your meddling. He turned back to the stars. The collapse reaches Rigel's territory within 6 days. Antares within 11. The effect accelerates with each system it consumes. The star representatives began to pulse with increasing intensity, their light patterns shifting in what Jonah recognized as their form of urgent communication. The Emperor lunged for his throne's control panel. This meeting is terminated. Council communications will resume after security protocols. Override Heliox Prime Alpha, a new voice cut through the chamber. A 13th star projection materialized at the center of the Council circle, smaller than the others, flickering unstably, but unmistakably present. Its light was a pale yellow-white. Soul, whispered Jonah in disbelief. Earth's sun had never demonstrated the sentience that other stars in the Federation possessed. While humans had spread throughout nearby star systems, Sol had remained silent, apparently just an ordinary star without the multidimensional consciousness of the stars who made up the Council. I have been watching, Sol said, its voice less resonant than the ancient stellar giants but filled with determination. I have been learning. And I have been gathering evidence of what our Emperor has done. The Emperor's face drained of color. This is impossible. Sol has no representative status. No projection rights. No. I have been awakening slowly, Sol continued. But the dimensional disturbances accelerated my consciousness. I felt the ripples of your experiments, Theron. I traced them back over decades. And I have shared my findings with the Council's secure network. The star representatives' projections flared simultaneously as they apparently received and processed this information. Antares, the eldest star, spoke. These actions violate the Charter of Mutual Preservation. The Council will deliberate on appropriate measures. The Emperor's mask slipped, revealing a face contorted by fury and fear. You don't understand what's at stake. Humans are ephemeral, our lives are nothing compared to yours. I only sought to balance the scales, to give humanity a leader who could match your longevity. Everything I did was for our species. No, Jonah said quietly. It was for you. And now we're all paying the price. He gestured to the holographic display where another simulation showed the collapse spreading like cracks through glass. But there might still be time to repair the damage, if we work together. If we stop the experiments and focus on stabilizing the affected regions. The Emperor's eyes darted between Jonah, the newly manifested soul, and the other stars. Jonah could almost see him calculating odds, weighing options. That was the thing about Emperor Theron, he had never been stupid, just catastrophically arrogant. The collapse can be contained, the Emperor said finally, straightening his robes with as much dignity as he could muster. My research includes several theoretical approaches that could halt or even reverse the effect. But I need continued access to my facilities, my data. Access you'll have, Jonah replied, under supervision. But no more secrets. No more experiments without full Council oversight. He looked around at the star representatives. That's my proposal to the Council. Transparency and collaboration are our only hope now. Antares' crimson light pulsed. The proposal has merit. But the question of consequences remains. The Emperor lifted his chin. I am still the human representative on this council. My position is protected by charter. Actually, Sol interrupted, its projection growing marginally stronger. The charter states that humanity's representative must have the confidence of both humans and stars. I call for a vote of confidence. The chamber went completely silent again as the implication hung in the air. Never in the history of the Federation had a human emperor been challenged this way. Jonah watched the Emperor's face cycle through shock, rage, and finally, a dangerous resignation. The vote of confidence hung in the air, an extinction-level threat to Theron's 3-decade reign. The Star Council chambers, usually a place of measured diplomatic exchanges, now crackled with the energy of impending revolution. A vote requires evidence, Emperor Theron said, his voice regaining its practiced imperial smoothness. Not the wild theories of a rogue scientist and a. He waved dismissively at Sol's projection, newly awakened stellar consciousness whose very existence lacks verification. Rigel's blue light intensified. Evidence has been provided to the Council matrix. Authentication complete. And, added Jonah, tapping his projector to change the display, I've brought more. The hologram shifted to show a series of timestamps and locations, secret installations across multiple systems where the Emperor's dimensional experiments had been conducted. Each was paired with nearby spatial distortions that preceded collapse events. The pattern is unmistakable, Jonah explained. Each tethering experiment creates a dimensional stress point. The stress grows exponentially until the fabric between universes tears. That's what a collapse is, a localized breakdown of our reality's structural integrity. Canopus pulsed thoughtfully. Query, can this damage be reversed? Possibly, Jonah said, but only if we act immediately. The collapse follows predictable patterns, we can use that to create reinforcing counterwaves at the dimensional boundaries. The Emperor stepped forward, smoothing his rumpled garments. This supports my point. My research is essential for developing these counterwaves. The Council cannot afford to interrupt my work now, regardless of how you feel about my methods. Your methods are the problem, Jonah countered. You've been trying to harness interdimensional energy to create personal immortality. That's what caused this mess. For the first time, the Emperor looked directly at the star representatives. Is that so wrong? You stars exist for billions of years. You watch civilizations rise and fall like mayflies. Why shouldn't humanity's leader match your lifespan? Think of the stability it would bring. Antares' crimson form flickered contemplatively. Emperor Theron raises a philosophical question worthy of consideration. Disparity of existence duration has always complicated our alliance. Jonah felt a chill. Was Antares actually considering the Emperor's position? Sol's projection, still smaller than the others but growing steadier, moved to the center of the chamber. I may be newly awakened, but I've observed humanity since your species first looked up at the night sky. Your strength is not in stability but in renewal. Each generation brings fresh perspectives, new solutions. Well said for an infant star, the Emperor sneered. The adult representatives understand the value of continuity. I understand the value of not destroying entire star systems, Rigel interjected, blue light pulsing sharply. Your experiments have already cost 18 million lives. The Emperor shrugged. Regrettable but necessary sacrifice for what? Jonah exploded. Your personal fear of death. Those were people, not statistics. The Emperor's face hardened. People die every day, Dr. Kell. Leaders make difficult decisions for the greater good. This wasn't for any greater good, Jonah said, stepping closer to the Emperor. I found your private logs. This was about you being terrified of losing power. Of becoming irrelevant. A dangerous smile played across Theron's lips. You talk about power, yet here you are, attempting to seize it for yourself. What makes you think you'd make different choices in my position? The question hit Jonah harder than he expected. Would he? If he had discovered how to extend his life by centuries, would he have resisted the temptation? The difference, Sol said, saving Jonah from having to answer, is accountability. Emperor Theron operated in secrecy. True leadership requires transparency. Transparency is a luxury, the Emperor shot back. The masses can't comprehend the complexities of. A thunderous pulse of energy cut him off as Antares flared. Enough pontification. The collapse approaches critical systems. Decision required. The massive red star turned toward Jonah. Your counterwave theory. Probability of success. With immediate implementation, using the star's dimensional perception to guide the process. 62% chance of halting the collapse, Jonah replied. The percentage drops roughly 8 points with each day of delay. And requires my research, the Emperor added quickly. Your research, yes, Jonah acknowledged reluctantly. But not your control. The council chamber hummed with the star's energy as they communicated in their own way. Finally, Antares' projection moved forward. The council proposes, Emperor Theron will surrender all research on dimensional tethering. He will assist in developing countermeasures under supervision. His future status as human representative will be determined after the crisis is resolved. The Emperor's jaw tightened. And if I refuse? Then I'm authorized to release everything I've found to every human settlement simultaneously, Jonah said quietly. Including the 18 million names from Proxima. Every person your experiments killed. For a long moment, Emperor Theron stood perfectly still. Then, with precise movements, he removed his vitality mask, revealing his true, aged face, something no public figure had seen in decades. You have no idea what forces you're tampering with, he said, voice now rough without the mask's enhancement. The multiverse doesn't follow your neat scientific models, Dr. Kell. There are things between dimensions that notice when you open doors. A chill ran down Jonah's spine. What are you talking about? Why do you think the stars helped humanity in the first place? The Emperor smiled thinly. Ask them what they're tethering against. The star representative's projections flickered simultaneously, a reaction Jonah had never seen before. It looked almost like fear. Sol moved forward. Is this true? It asked the other stars. Antares pulsed slowly. Partial truth. Distorted for manipulation. Then what is the whole truth? Jonah demanded. The ancient red star's projection expanded. Stars exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We serve as anchors. Stabilizers between realities. This is why we reached out to intelligent species, to form alliances of mutual protection. Protection against what? Jonah pressed. The void, Rigel answered. Entities that exist in the spaces between universes. They consume dimensions. Our multiverse is one of many they have found. The Emperor nodded. Now you begin to understand. My experiments weren't just about extending my life. They were about understanding our enemy. Learning to fight back. By weakening the very barriers keeping them out. Jonah asked incredulously. Controlled experiments, the Emperor insisted. Small breaches to study their behavior. To develop weapons. Those small breaches are growing, Sol countered. The collapse events are accelerating beyond your control. Jonah's mind raced. The counterwave approach can still work. We can repair the dimensional boundaries before more systems are lost. And then what? The Emperor challenged. Hide behind the stars forever. Wait until the void finds another way in. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over everyone. This was no longer just about the Emperor's deception or ambition. The threat was far greater than Jonah had imagined. Finally, Canopus spoke. Both approaches have merit. Repair and defense. Not mutually exclusive. Jonah nodded slowly. We repair the damage first. Stop the immediate crisis. Then we work on long-term strategies, together. No more unilateral decisions, no more secrets. A partnership, Sol agreed, its projection now nearly as stable as the other stars. Humans bring innovation and adaptability. Stars bring dimensional awareness and stability. The Emperor looked from Jonah to the stars, weighing his options. Finally, he sighed. I suppose a figurehead position with access to all research is better than atomization for treason. That's not what we're offering, Jonah said firmly. You'll face consequences for Proxima. But your knowledge is valuable, if you're willing to truly collaborate. For a moment, something like respect flickered in the Emperor's eyes. Then he nodded curtly. The Council accepts these terms, Antares declared. Crisis response protocols activated. As the star representatives began coordinating their efforts, mapping the dimensional stress points and calculating counterwave requirements, Jonah found himself standing awkwardly beside the Emperor. You know, Theron said quietly, dragging the Emperor across the council floor is still technically punishable by death. Add it to my tab, Jonah replied dryly. A ghost of a smile touched the Emperor's lips. I've been dragged across many floors in my 130 years, Dr. Kell. Few have lived to boast of it. Is that a threat? An observation. The Emperor gazed thoughtfully at Sol's strengthening projection. Our sun was never supposed to awaken. Its dimensional footprint is too small compared to the giants. Yet here it is, changing everything. Like humanity, Jonah suggested. Small but consequential. Perhaps. The Emperor straightened his robes. I hope you're prepared for what comes next. The void doesn't forgive, and it doesn't forget. Once a dimension is noticed, it never escapes attention. Before Jonah could respond, Rigel's projection approached. Your presence is requested in the calculation matrix. Both of you. As they followed the blue star toward the center of the chamber where the others had gathered, Jonah felt the weight of what they were facing, not just the immediate crisis of collapse, but a cosmic game of chess against an enemy that existed beyond comprehension. Yet looking at the stars and humans now working side by side, even the Emperor contributing his knowledge without reservation, Jonah felt something unexpected, hope. Not